Okay, good morning, everybody. We are going to begin this meeting of the Advisory Commission on Charter Schools. Today's Tuesday, October 9th, 2018. And I'd like to ask Commissioner Curtis Washington this morning to lead us in the pledge. Thank you.
Begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I know some of our commissioners who are participating remotely are grateful that I didn't call on one of them to lead us in the pledge. And with that, I do want to make a note that we have several commissioners who are participating remotely, and we also have individuals at the San Francisco Unified School District as well who are participating remotely. I'll get to that in a moment. Let's start first with introductions, and we'll begin with those at the dais who are here today, and then we'll move to commissioners who are participating remotely. Start on my left. Good morning.
Good morning. I'm Gail Garblina Mojica, and I represent County Superintendents of Schools.
Good morning. Lisa Constancio, representing the State Superintendent of Public Instruction, Tom Torlakson.
Good morning. I'm Brian Bauer, representing charter schools.
Jared Austin, representing parents.
I'm Curtis Washington, representing teachers.
Great. And I heard at least 3 commissioners and maybe a 4th online. Why don't we start with Mark?
This is Mark Ryan, representing charter school administrators.
Thank you. Ari?
Hi, this is Ari Engelberg. I'm a former charter school administrator. I'm an at-large member of the commission.
Thank you. I heard Wesley earlier.
Yes, good morning. This is Wes Sever, and I'm representing superintendents.
Good morning. And is Jamoke on the line? Okay, not yet. We're expecting her, but perhaps in a little bit we'll take care of that. Let's move first into the review and adoption of the meeting notes from our August meeting.
I'll move approval.
Okay, is there a second?
This is Mark Ryan. I'll second.
Okay, Jared beat you to that, Mark, but thank you. So we've got a first and a second on that. Is there any discussion, questions, comments about the meeting notes? Okay, all in favor, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Abstentions? All right, so those meeting notes are approved. We've got a few short updates, one from the Charter Division that Lisa's going to provide us, and then Carolyn's going to do a quick State Board update, and then we'll talk a little bit about the agenda and general public comments. So Lisa, I'll hand it over to you. Thanks.
Brian, can I interrupt for just a quick second?
Yeah.
Just from a protocol standpoint, should we, for those of us participating in the telecon, should we do a roll call vote for the for any votes for those of us that are doing remotely?
What? That's fine. Yeah. Thanks for the suggestion. We'll do that. So do you? Are you? Let's go over.
So
that. We'll
so
go
Mark
back.
Ryan is voting yes.
Mark Ryan's voting yes on the notes. What about Ari? Was that a yes?
Yes.
And
Yes,
Wes?
second. Yeah.
And Wes a yes?
Yes.
Okay, great. And all those in attendance here are voting yes. Okay, so noted. Thank you. Lisa.
All right. I just have a brief update on the public charter school grant program. We did put out an RFA for a second round for the planning and implementation portion of the grant. We did receive 60 applications this time around, and I think as we've gone through the applications so far, only 5 of those are ineligible. So there are going to be 55 applications going through our peer review process, and that'll be happening here in the next couple weeks. We do also have an RFA out for a second round of dissemination and expansion. That RFA, as I mentioned, is currently posted on our webpage. The deadline for applications for dissemination and expansion is November 29th. So we are hoping to receive some additional applications then as well. But at this point, we're actually looking like we may expend the entire grant, hopefully, and be able to prepare for applying for the 2019 federal grant. So that's just my update. That's about it. Thank you.
You. Caroline, I know we've got something short from the state board. Thanks so much.
Right. During the September 6th and 7th State Board of Education meeting, there were 2 material revisions that came forward. One was for Perseverance Charter School and the other one was for Promise. The State Board of Education members granted their request to delay opening by 1 year. There was also an item that came forward from the Imagine School at Imperial Valley, and that item was withdrawn before the State Board of Education had a chance to hear it, so that did not move forward. And lastly, Rocket Ship San Pablo to establish the new school, the State Board of Education denied that request.
Great, thank you. Okay, a few things that we're going to go over before we move into general public comment and then the agenda. One, I want to start by first thanking the California Department of Ed, the Charter Division staff for the work done in preparation for today. We have a few items, but heavy lift to get this ready for us, and especially the team along with the tech team in making this meeting more accessible, not just to commissioners, but those in San Francisco who wish to participate remotely today. All of the items that we have before us, the agenda as well as the specific items, have been distributed to us, the commissioners, electronically. Hard copies are available in the rear of the room. This meeting is live streamed for those who wish to watch it, as well as an archived copy of it is available on the ACCS site as you pull down from the State Board of Education site. So I encourage all individuals who wish to receive updates about what we receive, agendas, meeting notices, copies of materials, as well as to watch any recording of this commission meeting today or any other, to register with your email address on that site. It's the California Department of, the State Board of Education site for the Advisory Commission on Charter Schools. Again, thank you to the many staff members who are making today possible for us. Let's move then into general public comment. This would be comment on any item that's not agendized.
Mr. Chair, this is Jamoki Hinton Hodge. I wanted to let you know that I'm in on the meeting, so I can be marked present, please.
Great, thank you, Jamoki. Welcome. Okay, so if is there any general public comment?
There's no public comment.
Okay, very, very good.
I'm sorry. San Francisco here.
Pardon?
San Francisco here. Is this the time for public comment on any item?
This is the time for public comment on any non-agendized item. We're going to move then into the agendized items in just a moment.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so let's take a look at the order of the agenda for today. We're going to move in that order, taking items 1 and 2, the non-classroom based funding determinations first, and then we'll move into item 3, which is our appeal for today. And Lisa is going to take item number 1 for us. Thank you.
So we have two items today for non-classroom based funding determinations. All 4 of these schools are before us. They did have waivers approved at the September State Board of Education meeting, so now are before us here in October for actual non-classroom based funding determinations. So item number 1 is for consideration of a request for determination of funding as required for non-classroom based charter schools. CDE is proposing to recommend that the State Board approve the determination of funding at 100% for the time period specified for Ernest Kim Charter Academy for Independent Learning as listed in Attachment A. And we are recommending 100% for 3 years.
Move approval.
Let me ask if there's any, great, well, let's do that, but then I'm going to take comment. Yep, second.
This is Mark Ryan, second.
Okay, so Gail makes the motion and Jared seconds. Is there any public comment on this item? Anyone sign up for number 1? No? Any of the schools in item 1 wish to speak before the commission? Okay, so there's been a motion that's been seconded. Any commissioner questions or comments? Is that someone in the back who wishes to speak or address the commission? Okay, very good. Let's take a roll call vote. I'll start then on my left. Gail?
Yes.
Lisa?
Yes.
Jared?
Yes.
Curtis?
Yes.
Wes?
Yes.
Ari?
Yes.
Mark?
Yes.
Jamoke?
Yes.
And I'll be voting yes. So that item moves forward with an ACCS recommendation to endorse staff recommendation to the State Board of Ed. Let's move on to item 2. Thank you.
Okay, and item 2 is consideration for request for determination of funding with reasonable basis or mitigating circumstances as required for a non-classroom based charter school. There are 3 schools on this item. The Comeback Butte Charter, Imperial Pathways Charter, and Talion High Desert Academy. Staff is recommending approval for all 3 of these. I did notice I'm going to make a correction to the Talion High Desert. The recommendation for all 3 of these items should be 100% for 2 years. And that one I did catch this morning says 100% for 5 years. So we will be making that correction prior to this moving forward to the State Board of Education. But staff is recommending approval 100% for 2 years for all 3 of these schools.
Okay, I'm going to make a motion to note that in the recommendation too, right?
Yes.
There's second. Okay, Curtis is going to second it. Is there any public comment on this item? Any of those schools wish to address the commission? Okay, we'll do another roll call if there aren't questions or comments from commissioners. Okay, we'll start. Gail?
Yes.
Lisa?
Yes.
Jared?
Yes.
Curtis?
Yes.
Wes?
Yes.
Ari?
Yes.
Mark?
Yes.
Jamoke?
Yes.
And I'll be voting yes as well. So that also moves forward with a recommendation to the State Board to endorse the staff recommendations, 100% for 2 years on those 3 schools. Okay, we're going to move into item number 3. Carrie is going to present that, and while she's making her way up to the lectern, let me go over a few things regarding this item in terms of process. This is a public hearing on this particular item. The CDE staff is going to make its presentation first. That'll be followed by the petitioner having an opportunity to address the commission for up to 10 minutes, followed by the district or the county or both. And in this case, it's San Francisco Unified as the district and the county, and they are participating remotely, so that presentation can be for up to 10 minutes. We'll then close the public hearing, have an opportunity for public speakers to address the commission, both speakers here as well as in San Francisco, if there are any, and I'll speak to that when we get to that section about how those in San Francisco who wish to address the commission during public comment can do so. And then there'll be an opportunity for a deliberation and specific questions from commissioners before we move into a vote. Welcome. Thanks a lot.
All right, good morning, Chair Bauer, Commissioners, and Director Constancio. I am Carrie Lopes, Education Administrator in the Charter Schools Division, and I am presenting item 3. Item 3 is an appeal for the establishment of Mary L. Booker Leadership Academy, which was denied by the San Francisco Unified School District by a vote of 6-0. The San Francisco Unified School District Board of Education acts on behalf of the City and County of San Francisco. Therefore, the Mary L. Booker appeal was submitted directly to the State Board of Education. Pursuant to California Education Code 47605J, petitioners for a charter school that has been denied at the local level may petition the State Board of Education for approval. CDE received the appeal from Mary L. Booker on July 27, 2018. CDE is proposing that the SBE hold a public hearing to approve the request to establish Mary L. Booker a grade 9 through grade 12 charter school under the oversight of the State Board of Education, noting the following conditions. The Mary L. Booker Board will provide the CDE with verifiable evidence that Mary L. Booker has received funding anticipated from each of the commitment letters identified, and will provide the CDE with a revised 2019-20 budget. These conditions are to be met prior to opening in 2019-20. Also, I would like to point out that in the item on page 3, the fiscal analysis done by CDE shows negative ending fund balances with no reserves for the first 3 years of operation. However, it has been our practice when reviewing a budget that's been submitted that we exclude all of the soft money. That is money that comes from private donations and grants. So the petitioners have, I just want to note, the petitioners have secured financial commitment letters from New Schools Venture Fund and Silicon School Funds. So with secured funding, the CDE has determined that the petitioners are likely to successfully implement the program. It also should be noted as well that the petitioners have applied for the PCSGP Round 2 Planning and Implementation Grant for $475,000. All those applications are currently undergoing peer review. Additionally, the CDE finds that the Mary L. Booker petition has a sound educational program. Grounded in the 3 core values of community, equity, and leadership, the charter school proposes to serve grades 6 through grade 8 and grow a grade per year to serve 420 pupils in 2023-24, with the intention of locating and serving pupils primarily from the southeast San Francisco neighborhoods of Bayview and Mission. The CDE has reviewed the Mary L. Booker appeal documents, including the petition and all the appendices, the budget and financial projections, fiscal and operating policies, and the district county agenda minutes findings regarding the denial of the petition, along with the responses from the petitioner. The petitioner is here to address the commission. A representative from San Francisco Unified is available through teleconference, I believe, online right now. And additionally, CDE staff is available to answer any of your questions.
Great. Any clarifying questions now? We may ask Carrie to return. Okay, great, thank you. Okay, so now we will hear from the petitioner.
I apologize. I apologize. I do have a clarifying question. This is Jim Okay.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know if I just misheard. You said typically it is not your practice because of the zero fund balance that we saw carried over. You said typically it is your practice to exclude the private funded resources, and yet did you say you included them in this particular case? I'm sorry. I didn't check that properly.
So when we do the original analysis on the budget, we are looking at the budget that was submitted to the local and or county with the denial. So we look at that budget and we take out, like I said, all of the soft money, the grants, the donations, anything that is, I guess, basically not verifiable at that time. So we've done that on the initial analysis of the budget. So that's in the item. But I did want to note that since that time, Mary L. Booker Academy has received a number of commitment letters, one from New Schools Venture and then the Silicon Schools Fund, with almost a total of about $625,000, I believe, and the petitioner can speak more to this as well.
And you would characterize that as soft dollars, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
And then in addition to that, they've applied for the PCSGP Round 2 Planning and Implementation Grant. And if awarded that, that's going through peer review right now, but if awarded that grant, that could possibly give them an additional $475,000.
Thank you, Chair and staff.
Thank you. Very good. Good morning. So now we will hear from the petitioners. Welcome. Yeah. Welcome.
Welcome. Good morning, commissioners. My name is Terrence Davis. I'm the school founder of Mary L. Booker Leadership Academy, a 6th through 12th grade charter school planning to open in Southeast San Francisco. Our first year will open with grades 6, 7, and 8. We're a school that is committed to the community. We have a belief in equity for all of our students, and we see ourselves as developing the next great generation of leaders. Before I go on, I want to acknowledge the over 40 different members from Southeast San Francisco who have traveled with us today, many of them wearing the black shirts behind me. As you'll see throughout our presentation, and many of them will have the opportunity to speak, I've been grateful and overwhelmed by the amount of support we've received for this school. Also want to take some time to acknowledge the staff's recommendation. As was just mentioned, we had several conversations, and I was asked questions in terms of any clarifying concerns I had, and I was then able to provide some letters that were mentioned. And I really appreciate the time the staff took before making the recommendation for approval for Mary L. Booker Leadership Academy. So getting into our school. So I know today what's important, there's a couple of things I know that's really going to be the focus. Part of it is going to be our school model and the work that we've done. A little bit of it will be about our community involvement. But I also know that part of today is my leadership skills and my ability to be the school founder. So a little bit about me. I've been a career educator for the past 10 years, working at high-performing charter schools across the country. I've taken time at each of these schools to look at what are the best practices in developing a school. What I've realized, and if you see in this picture here, this is a group of advisory boys that I had that I taught about 5-6 years ago. What's so powerful about this picture is that these young men now are all in college, graduated from high school and now in college. And it's great when I'm able to share some of the stories that they've had of success and also share some of the struggles they've had. And as an educator, that is what I've seen has been the most important part of my work. A little bit about me, I think, again, knowing why I'm the person that's opening the school. I'm a father and a husband. My oldest, Jaden, is 3 years old, and my youngest, Elijah, is 1. It was about 4 or 5 years ago that I started talking to my wife about a dream I had. I had this dream of taking some of the best practices of these successful schools and putting them together to design a school. I recognized the power of creating something from scratch. And so I talked to my wife, and eventually, we were living in Chicago at the time. Also, my wife we were very cold in Chicago, and we were looking to move back to California. And so I had this thought, and I talked to my principal at the time, who had been a mentor to me, and mentioned him about this idea of a school. And around that time, he had also heard from an organization called Innovate Public Schools and Silicon School Fund, who were looking to support a new leader. And so we partnered together, and I was able to move back to California, and specifically to San Francisco, because it was a dream I had of moving closer to home and of leading and starting a school. Before I even started that process, I recognized that I still wanted to develop my leadership skills. So I spent a year as a principal in residence at Leadership Public Schools in Hayward, under the tutelage of a very successful principal, focusing on honing my instructional skills, practicing all the different techniques and skills that I would need as a school leader. From there, the exciting part started, where we went out and we worked with the community. Again, I'll reference many of the people behind me, many wearing black shirts. These are family members, the parents, and the community members who've taken time to sit down with me to talk about what is needed for a high-performing school in Southeast San Francisco. From here, we established our design team. In 2017, this design team started meeting by having meetings twice a month, talking about every element of our school, from our name to our mission statement to elements of the academic model. What Mary L. Booker Leadership Academy is a combination of my experience at some of the best charter schools, combined with the knowledge that was already built in the communities to develop a world-class school. As you see in the picture, we spend a lot of time having events. This specific event is the Bayview Opera House, where we advertise and we let people know about this idea we're having. We brought people together. Really proud of this picture, because what's so powerful about it is that there's about 50, 60 people circled around. And during that time, people were just sharing out what are their hopes and dreams for our future students. From there, during our meetings, we recognized that not only did we want to kind of talk about what we've seen, we also wanted to make sure that we had data to prove it. Right now, if you are a parent of a low-income African-American or Latino student, there aren't a lot of great options in San Francisco. Specifically, when we start to look at the data, and I'm going to put up a couple maps here, as is concentrated on Southeast San Francisco, we recognize that there is a need for a high-performing school. So as we sat in these meetings, we looked at the data, we listened to people. The next step was to get out there and start to meet with families. As of January 2018, we've collected over 400 intent-to-enroll forms from parents of future 6th, 7th, and 8th graders. As you can see in the heat map here, it shows where a lot of these families are coming from, and it corresponds to the need of a high-quality school in Southeast San Francisco. So that is kind of the work we've done. Again, the other part I mentioned is that today what's really important is like, what's the school model? What are kids going to be doing? So I mentioned earlier our core values, community, equity, and leadership. These all build into our instructional pillars. The first is that we're going to meet with each student before the school year starts to develop their own personal dream team. This dream team concept is partnering parent, teacher, student, which is something that many schools have, but what we're adding is any significant adult that is in that student's life. We think of the basketball coach, maybe the youth pastor. We think of the a big brother, big sister program. The purpose is to make sure that every adult is on the same page when we're communicating about students. I know from my experience that often, so sometimes it could be the parent that is the one that's getting through to the student, but it also could be another adult. So what we want is that everyone's hearing that same message. We're all on the same accord. That happens before school starts, and that'll happen 4 times a year. So from the day-to-day perspective, we believe first and foremost from an instructional belief is that every student has a capacity to learn. We know that our job is to develop proficient readers, writers, and mathematicians. And we want to ensure that our students are having a personal connection with their work every single day. How does that look? We first have a leadership class, which is at the beginning of every day, similar to the picture I showed earlier. The advisory class that I led. What's a little unique about this class is that we've worked with a school in Tennessee, Valor Collegiate, who's developed a social emotional curriculum starting in 6th grade going all the way to 12th grade. So for a student, when we talk about this idea of identity, a student as 6th grader would start off maybe filling out a questionnaire, kind of thinking about themselves. By the 12th grade, our expectation is that they can write a full essay about their own identity and feel very confident as they're going to college. Students then would go to their learning studio, which is a set-aside amount of time every day focused on students' foundational skills. We want to know when I say that they're going to be proficient readers, writers, and mathematicians, it is in these classes that happens. It happens throughout the day, but this is a time when we're talking about personalized learning and working at students' level. It is in these classes that happens. These are going to be small group, and it'll be small group instruction. We'll utilize some of the online materials that we know have been successful, and we'll also leverage some of the peer support for our students. The bulk of the time for our students will be the core time, which is where we'll implement some of our project-based learning. I mentioned before that I worked at a school in San Diego, it's High Tech High, known for project-based learning, and that's where I initially got my first credential. And so for me, when I talk about projects, to me what it means is how are we allowing students to make personal connections? How are we helping students work in groups and develop the skills that they'll need for the 21st century? This picture is of a workshop we did not too long ago in the Mission District. I'm going to zoom in on this picture. This is of a young man and his father. The task that they had was to take a set of batteries and an LED bulb and a variety of materials and figure out how to light that bulb. I choose to close out on this picture in part because when I look at this and I think of what is my responsibility as a school founder of Mary L. Booker Leadership Academy, what is my job? I see my responsibility as helping each of our students to develop their own light. It's through these projects, it's through the connection to our parents and our community that I believe that we will be successful. I'm excited to answer any questions about our school, and I'm excited to also give you the opportunity to hear from some of our parents. Thank you.
Thank you. Any clarifying questions right now? Be able to probe a little bit deeper after we hear from others this morning. Thank you very much. Okay.
Should I go back?
Yeah, you're welcome to take a seat. We're now going to hear from San Francisco Unified. Good morning. You may, is it Mike who's on the other line?
Yeah, I'm here. Thanks.
Okay, great. If you need a little bit of time to get situated, we'll move into your portion of the presentation just as soon as you're ready.
I'm ready. So basically, I have provided a memo to the commission, and I'm just going to sort of summarize that so I don't take up a lot of your time. Basically, you know the history here. This is a charter petition that was brought to San Francisco Unified School Board and was denied on June 12th. We made 2 specific findings for that denial, and we request that you uphold those findings and recommend denial to the State Board of Education. So specifically, SFUSD respectfully requests that the ACCS recommend that SBE hold a public hearing to deny the request to establish MLBLA as a charter school under the oversight of the SBE and uphold the decision of the local school board, San Francisco Unified School Board Board of Education. After receiving the petition from the petitioners, the Board of Education commissioned staff to conduct a thorough review. Staff did that review and issued a detailed recommendation for denial to the Board of Education. On June 12, 2018, the Board of Ed unanimously approved the staff recommendation to deny and adopted the findings to support the denial. And you were provided with that documentation on August 3rd, 2018. The recommendation for denial was based on the following conclusions. One, the petition does not contain reasonably comprehensive descriptions of all of the charter provisions outlined in the Education Code. Two, the petitioners are demonstrably unlikely to successfully implement the program set forth in the petition. The findings in support of these conclusions were, A, that the petition fails to set forth reasonably comprehensive descriptions of all required charter elements, and B, the petitioners are demonstrably unlikely to successfully implement the program. So for both of those findings, we provided a detailed rationale for making those findings, and those were adopted by our board. So the CDE staff, which we appreciate, always does a wonderful job, made these findings. They found that the petition does not present a reasonably comprehensive description of the measurable pupil outcomes, does not present a reasonably comprehensive description of suspension and expulsion procedures, does not present a reasonably comprehensive description of annual independent financial audits, and does not meet the requirement to address goals in the 8 state priorities. So, with those findings, you see the findings from San Francisco and you see the findings from CDE staff, yet CDE staff finds that overall this is a good educational program that should be approved, and we find the opposite. So, we request that the ACCS recommend to SBE denial of the petition for the following reasons. As stated before, it fails to set forth reasonably comprehensive descriptions. Both SFUSD and CDE made specific findings that the MLB-LA petition did not meet California Education Code requirements for reasonably comprehensive descriptions of all elements, including measurable pupil outcomes and description of pupil suspension and expulsion procedures. And two, we believe petitioners are demonstrably unlikely to successfully implement the program set forth in the petition. Why do we think that? One, community support. As detailed in our June 12th findings, the petition contains signatures of at least 7 verifiably certificated teachers to meet that minimum requirement to contain 50% of the teachers expected to be employed. However, the petition states, in addition, we have additional signatures from parents and community members that can be found in Appendix B. Appendix B actually contains a typed list of parents and community members. So the petition meets the signature requirement by including teachers, but does not really indicate meaningful support from meaningfully interested parents. Further, in the June 12, 2018 public hearing held by our Board of Education, community members opposing the charter school outnumbered those supporting establishment of the charter school. And one of the main tasks that our board had in reviewing this petition was to hold a public hearing to gauge public support. The petitioner stated today that they had 400, I believe, intent to enroll forms. We have not seen those forms, and those forms were not provided at the time the petition was presented. And what we are tasked with doing is reviewing the petition as presented. I assume that we'll see some evidence of those 400 in the charter schools Prop 39 request for facilities, which we'll receive on November 1st. Second, the school intends to operate in the southeast area of San Francisco. In addition to the school's failure to demonstrate meaningful parent demand in that area, another charter school operating in that same area under SBE oversight recently reduced its first year 2018-19 projected enrollment from 142 down to 102. So that's the community support piece. The school governance experience. Under employee qualifications for key positions, the petition states the head of school's responsibilities include managing all areas of the charter school, including academic achievement, personnel management, as well as operational and financial oversight. Under qualifications experience, the head of the school petition includes have demonstrated leadership in curriculum design and implementation. The experience of the founding leader as described on page 12 of the petition does not provide the background meeting the experience and qualifications cited on page 117 of the petition. Further, it is our understanding that the school's founding leader was incubated by and has some affiliation with Innovate Education. However, Innovate is not an established operator of charter schools. Further, two schools led by Innovate incubated founders that were approved by the SBE in 2017 for operation under their oversight were unable to open this fall and recently, last month, received SBE approval to push back their openings by 1 year. This to us is another indication that maybe the capacity is not there to demonstrably carry out the program. So the summary is the petition as reviewed by the CDE and SFUSD does not contain the requirement elements for approval, and SFUSD respectfully requests that the charter school is not approved for operation in San Francisco.
Okay, thank you. Are there any, is that it, Mike? I don't want to cut you off.
No, that's it. Thank you.
Okay, great. I'm going to ask you too, are there any individuals in the room, not that we're going to do it right now, but when we do, are there individuals in the room who wish to address the commission during the public comment on this item?
There are.
Okay, we'll get to that. Any clarifying questions right now of district staff on this? Okay, so you do.
Sorry, I do have a question.
Yeah.
Hi, Mike. This is Gail Garbolino Mojica. So you just went through about 4 items as to concerns that the district found. You talked about the lack of support. There was another charter school that opened up that reduced the attendance or enrollment. The fact that Innovate is involved and they had 2 of their SBE charters have asked to delay their opening. Was there any pedagogical, educational flaws that you saw in the petition that the district adopted as a part of its findings?
Yes, there were. If you look at the staff recommendation from June 12th for San Francisco Unified, page 14 of 36 in your packet. A, in the petition, the elements of a high-quality instructional program are not adequately defined, particularly for English learners and students with disabilities. We also found that in the previous page that the petition does not contain a sufficient description of the educational program based on these findings.
Thank you.
Mike, just for clarification, this is Brian, the chair. You mentioned 2 schools, Promise and Perseverance, both of whom asked for delays in their opening, and that both are with Innovate. I remember Promise being with Innovate. Perseverance, though, is not. Okay, got it. Any clarifying questions right now of the petitioner? excuse me, of the district?
Yes.
Go ahead,
Yes.
Jamoke. Yep.
So I actually wanted to tag that a little bit because I didn't. You said that innovate, incubate schools, and I don't know. I feel like, can you correct me on that? Because I feel like they actually incubate and support leaders. So is that what you're? Are you fusing those two things together?
No, I'm not.
Conflating them?
I'm sorry.
Because
Yeah,
they don't incubate schools.
I specifically said that they incubate leaders, that leaders incubated.
Okay, got it.
Did not.
Okay. Thanks. That was confusing. I didn't track that well either. And then I was just trying to look up, and I couldn't scroll to it quick enough. Could you talk a little bit more about the piece where you said they did not meet the 8 state priorities? Because that would speak definitely right to academic performance and just general competencies to support student growth, correct? And could you talk about how that, I know it's in their proposal, so you obviously had a problem with it. Could you expound on that?
So that finding was made by CDE staff, not by SFUSD.
Okay, so you just were repeating those, enumerating those things that were found. Okay, great. That would be all my clarifying questions for right now.
Carrie, you wanted to comment on something? Yep. To address the issue on the 8. Yep.
I can address the issue on the 8 state priorities. That was one of our, when we did the analysis, and it's in the A1 on page 39 of the attachment, one of our analysis of the item. One of the criteria is the goals to address the 8 state priorities. So they did address the 8 state priorities in the petition in element 2. I think what was the requirement they did not meet was the fact that the petition does not include a description for the MPOs for each subgroup. So the petition actually outlines the subgroups it wants to serve in the petition. The petitioner has done that. It's in the petition. And so the expectation is that we would see those subgroups outlined in element 2 where the MPOs are in regards to the 8 state priorities. So if the petition were approved by the State Board of Education, when we move forward, then if it were approved, they would have to go back and revise that to include the subgroups as stated in the petition.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, follow up too on my earlier comments about those 2 schools, Perseverance and Promise. My recollection too was that their delay had little to nothing to do with capacity and bandwidth of the schools. It had to do with facility location, and that was well versed and known when the state board made its approval on those 2 items. Any other clarifying questions of the district right now? And if there,
through the chair, I have a quick one.
Mm-hmm.
Could San Francisco staff talk a little bit, because I definitely, when we dig in, I want to talk a lot about demographics and neighborhood. And so there was a note about KIPP reducing, and so just quickly, could you just give me a landscape picture of your traditionals and your charters in the Bayview, Hunters View area, and kind of how many students are there? Just any thumbnail information to help me understand the landscape. Thank you.
Well, so I don't have specific numbers in front of me right now, even though I am at the district office. So in the Hunters Point Bayview area, we currently have 3 charter schools operating now. The KIPP Elementary School, which, as I stated, is expecting, according to their PenSec report, to serve about 102 students this year. And they are co-located with our Malcolm X Academy, which has about 90 kids. Sorry, I was corrected. It is now up to 115. So there's 115 district kids at MXA, along with an expected 102 for KIPP Elementary School. There's also KIPP Bayview Academy, which is a 5 through 8 school, and they have about 300 students. We have Drew Elementary School and Carver Elementary School, and I don't have the current numbers for those, but I can provide those. And we also have the KIPP High School, which has about 320 students.
Thank you. That was good. I just needed a bit of a picture. Appreciate it.
Okay.
I have a question for the district. In reading your findings, you noted that the petitioner didn't adequately address the teacher shortage and challenges that they may face in finding teachers. Is it your practice that you require all petitioners to address a state issue like this?
It's our practice to review the information provided to make some determination about their ability to carry out the program as stated.
Okay, any other clarifying questions? We certainly can and very well may go back to more specifics after we've heard from public speakers on this item. So I'm going to close the public hearing, and we're going to move into then the public comment on this agenda item. What I'm going to do to take care of the remote issue first is ask for those in San Francisco who are in the room to speak in San Francisco to speak first. And Mike, if you could assist me with that, I'd appreciate it. Are there individuals in that room who have expressed an interest in speaking before the commission?
Could we request that they speak after? Is that okay?
No, I'd like to have them speak now.
Then yes, there are.
Okay, great. So if you can give me an approximate number while they're lining up, and I'll count on you to help them get to the telephone or the microphone where they'll be speaking. I'd ask that the individual state his or her full name, the organization being represented, and that each person will have a minute. If individuals wish to pull their time, that's fine as well. But we'll start with the first individual timed at a minute, just as soon as he or she finishes identifying him or herself.
Just a moment. We have individuals that are speaking on behalf of a number of individuals. So.
Okay, and that's fine. Thank you.
Hello, can you hear me okay?
Thank you. Yes, we can.
My name is Melissa Dar Carvajal, and I'm representing the San Francisco Families Union. We have some families that are arriving. They are not here yet, and we'd like to request that after you hear us that are here and the people in the room get to testify, that we give those families an opportunity to testify as well.
Yeah, if the hearing's still taking place, we still have an opportunity during public comment, we can do that. But when we close public comment, we're going to close it to move into deliberation. So long as they arrive during the period of time that we've got set aside right now.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Sure.
So my name is Melissa Dar Carvajal. I have two boys in San Francisco Public Schools. I went to an Innovate meeting in the Excelsior in my neighborhood. And it was an incredible meeting. There was tablecloths and 4-color booklets and 7 or 8 people signing people in. There was probably 50 Innovate staff people there. There was a video camera, and there were scripts for everybody that spoke. And it was the amount of funding from marketing was incredibly impressive, and I hope that San Francisco Unified can get the same kind of resources to promote their schools. It was particularly upsetting to me because at that meeting, the speaker said, and I quote, "The teachers don't care about you. The administrators don't care about you." And this is what was said to a group of parents and family members and people who don't have kids who came to the meeting. And
Time.
so,
1 minute is up.
okay, so I just hope that you consider that marketing is one thing and providing quality schools is another. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there another speaker?
Yes, just a moment.
How many do we have right now, Mike, in the room?
There'll be two more.
Okay, great.
My name's Julie Roberts Fung. I'm reading a letter from the Special Education Community Advisory Committee. Because I only have 1 minute, I will go quickly. Charter schools have been a hot topic of conversation among SFUSD parents this school year. CAC members believe that charter schools aren't necessarily bad. In fact, we have some great charter schools in San Francisco that offer robust and individualized learning environments for students. As parents of students with IEPs, the biggest concern of CAC members surrounding charter schools is accountability. The main concern of the Special Education CAC is that folks met with Mary L. Booker Academy to ask them to be included in SFUSD's SELPA, which is the Oversight Board, which allows families to have their voices heard when there are issues with IEPs and other special education needs. Mary L. Booker Academy decided instead to opt out of the SFUSD local plan and join a SELPA 150 miles away with limited opportunities for parent participation, which effectively removes parent oversight. A few of the local charter schools are members of the SFUSD SELPA, and if you are a charter school family, we encourage you to find your SELPA and CAC. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Allison Collins, and I'm representing the African American Parent Advisory Council and also speaking on behalf of other members who have come often to our Board of Ed meeting, including the NAACP in San Francisco, Coleman Advocates, Parents for Public Schools, and as well as Julie mentioned, the Special Education CAC. Families in our district and specifically in the Bayview are concerned about not having a voice in their schools. On the 25th, they read a letter which stated that they encouraged passing of a resolution which allows families the right to fair treatment and transparency at every step, which includes local control and accountability. Having a deeper this is what they wrote, having deeper accountability around how students are receiving access to essential supports and offering families a vehicle to advocate for the resources needed is vital to the success of our children. Families in the Bayview are concerned because Terrence Davis has basically telling community members that he is a principal. He is not. He is currently an Innovate employee. That is misleading families. He's telling them he wants to open a new school. When it is shared with them that he intends to push his school into Carver or into Willie Brown, families are very upset about that.
Time.
You want to they are included in decision-making at their school. If you approve this, you will be taking away parents' voices, and if this school is really interested in community oversight, it would have been meeting with the African American Parent Advisory Council, which is a recognized voice in our district.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, is there anybody else right now in the room from San Francisco Unified?
That's it for now. Thank you.
Okay, great. We'll circle back after we hear from the public speakers in the CDE conference room auditorium now. So why don't we start with the list of those that you've got, Jonathan? Thank you. If you could make your way up to the lectern too as your name's called.
Please line up. Geraldine Anderson, Verna Howard, Robrina Parker, Susan F. Wong, Ronnie Chisney, Chisel.
That's great. Yeah, good. Good morning. Welcome.
Good morning, Commissioners. In the words of Angela Davis, civil rights
State your full name. I'm sorry. Okay.
I'm Geraldine Anderson, single mother of 3 boys, Bayview parent leader, proud chairwoman of the board of Mary L. Booker Leadership Academy, board member of Innovate Public Schools, and a 29-year veteran employee of San Francisco Superior Court, where I have seen close to 3 decades of children and families harmed by domestic violence, substance abuse, juvenile and adult incarcerations, and a truancy calendar which continues to grow. I'm here today to ask that you graciously grant Mary L. Booker Leadership Academy to be approved, to give our families an educational advantage to break these cycles. I am also here today to confirm the endless hours of evening meetings with families and community members coming together and expressing our needs and our wants for a school integrating leadership, equity, and community. I believe a good education is the greatest playground all children should be allowed to experience. I also believe and support MLBLA, a family and community nurtured school offering just that and more. In the words of Angela Davis, civil rights activist, I am no longer accepting the things I cannot change. I am changing the things I can no longer accept.
Thank you. Good morning.
Good afternoon. My name's Rovina Parker. I'm a parent leader supporting Mary L. Booker Leadership Academy School from San Francisco. I came all the way to Sacramento today to speak to you, hoping that you would listen with your heart. I appreciate the Frederick Douglass quote, "It's easier to build strong children than to repair broken men." To me, this means that good schools are essential for children, for our children's development. Often we focus on having strong elementary schools, but we forget about middle school and high school. This is why I'm excited about the Mary L. Booker Academy. I volunteer and work in the local San Francisco schools with family and students. I have a student who will be a 6th grader next year. I'm excited for her to be able to be a student in the school. Some of the things I'm most excited about with the schools are new creative methods of teaching, such as project-based learning, strong teaching that meets the kids where they are, and hoping to get them where they need to be.
Thank you. Good morning.
Good morning. My name is Tiana Coleman. I represent the Mary L. Booker Leadership Academy. I am also a board member of the Mary L. Booker Leadership Academy, and I'm also the niece of Mary Booker as well. I stand to give you information and a background on Mary Booker. She was a pillar in her community. She fought for the same injustices and inequalities in the 1950s in San Francisco as we fight for today. As a community activist in the Bayview southeast side of San Francisco, she worked as a teacher for the San Francisco Unified School District, dedicating her life to teaching and encouraging the youth and the underserved members in the Bayview. She created a theatrical program working in the Bayview Opera House area, creating programs, working with other neighborhood community organizations to help enrich the lives of the community members. As her niece and as the treasurer of the board, and as I stand here with the other constituents of our school, together we stand and ask for support for our Leadership Academy. The team here, I believe, represent the same ideologies that my aunt stood for: integrity, leadership, inclusion, equity, education, enrichment of her community, and we vow to continue to work hard implementing our mission at our school. Thank you.
Thank you. Good morning.
Hi, thank you. My name is Susan Wong. I am here to support Mary L. Booker Leadership Academy. I am a parent of 3 SFUSD graduates. I attended Houston Public Schools when they were still legally segregated by Jim Crow laws. I grew up in the first ward of Houston, which was back then mainly an African American and Latino neighborhood. I base my support for Mary L. Booker on a long, arduous history of Black education in the United States. After the Civil War, freed slaves hungered for the education they were systematically denied on the plantation. Northern churches funded schools for newly freed people. Congress created the Freedmen's Bureau, which provided funding for new schools for Black children. In fact, ordinary Black families took the initiative to build schools for their children. They purchased land, constructed buildings, and fundraised to hire teachers. Currently, SFUSD's traditional schools have a 2-tiered system, one for the Blacks and Hispanics and one for all others. In fact, the proficiency levels of the schools are much worse for the Black and Latino students. And please support Mary L. Booker. Thank you.
Thank you. Good morning.
Good morning, Commissioners. My name is Reverend Ronnie Chisholm, a 50-year resident of the Bayview Hunters Point community. I'm here in support of the Mary L. Booker Leadership Academy. I have had 5 children that have gone through the San Francisco Unified School District schools at some point in their school careers. Historically, the San Francisco Unified School District has not served our children. In fact, the numbers have gone down in terms of their achievement gap has gotten wider. The ability to meet our kids' needs have failed, even though the system has given more money to the Unified School District. Would you put your children in a program that continually fails them? And I ask today that you will allow us, parents and community leaders, to make a choice in our community when the system is failing us. The numbers keep falling all over the place. So will you please today allow us to make a difference in our community and not keep in a system that is not designed to serve us. It is systematic oppression to allow the San Francisco Unified School District to not be held accountable as you want to hold accountable these charter schools. Thank you so much, and God bless you.
Thank you.
Please make the right decision.
Do we have some more speakers?
Please line up Pastor Aurelius Walker, Bishop Chris Baker, Lizeth Garcia, Elizabeth Nahara, Kimberly Evans.
Honorable Commissioners, I'm Dr. Aurelius Walker. I pastor the True Hope Church of God in Christ in Bayview Hunters Point. I've lived there for 50-some years. I'm very active. The Board of Directors of the Tabernacle Community Development Corporation, which I'm a part of, 7 churches. I'm representing them also to encourage you to approve the Mary L. Booker Leadership Academy. We need that very affirmative now. We cannot wait any longer. The gentleman previously spoke behind me, spoke correct, but I just want to let you know there's tremendous support within Bayview Hunters Point. I pastored that church 50 years. Of course, I'm retiring next year. And also, Tabernacle built over 600 low-income houses. Myself involved, I've also either helped approve or build myself over 1,000 low-income housing, but our educational system within that district is not meeting the qualification, meeting our children's needs for education. Thanks very much, sir.
Thank you. Good morning.
Good morning, Bishop Chris Baker here, and I just want to say, it just amazes me when we see something working for the kids and we're nitpicking on some things that we can overlook and work with the petitioner through that. When I walked in this building and I look at the diversity of all these kids and parents, that's my concern, is the students. It's not charter against traditional, traditional against charter. My focus is the students. If it's working for them, let's work with them and let's work through the issues that petitioner may have. And I support them wholly in everything they're doing, because when I lived in that area of San Francisco, there was nothing available for me as a growing up kid in foster home, mental institutes for children, because I was considered a disabled child because I had a learning difficulty. But when I see these things coming up, that's why I'm passionate here in Sacramento for parents, because this system works. If we just stop bickering about little bitty things and work through it to get our kids to the next level. And I ask your support for this.
Thank you. Morning. Yeah, there'll be a double time. Thank you.
Hi, buenos días. Me llamo Lizeth García y soy mamá de 2 adolescentes, uno en high school y el otro empezando la middle school.
Hello, my name is Lisette Garcia. I'm a mother of 2 teenagers in charter schools. One is in high school and the other is starting middle school.
Mi hijo más pequeño ha tenido problemas médicos como tipo ataques epilépticos desde los 6 años y en la escuela que estaba a él no le daban el apoyo necesario, solamente las maestras.
My youngest son, who's had medical problems since he was 6 years old, started having epileptic seizures. When this happened, we didn't have the support of the public school or the principal, though his teachers did support him. But even so, my son was not progressing because he could not count on their full support.
Él solo recibió el plan 504, sin embargo no avanzaba y en el último año escolar él recibió el IP después de casi 6 años.
So he initially never had an IEP. He was only issued a 504 plan. That finally changed this past year after 6 years of trying to get that.
Ahora él empezó la middle school en una charter y ahí le están respetando su IP y ahora él cuenta con un apoyo diferente a la escuela que él estaba, está más tranquilo porque esta es una escuela pequeña.
So this year he started middle school, and I decided to enroll him into a charter school. While he's endured difficulty, I feel confident because he's now getting support and his ISP is being respected, and he's being supported in a smaller school setting.
Así que él ahora se encuentra un poco más tranquilo, al igual que yo, porque él tiene secuelas de los ataques epilépticos.
He now feels a lot more calm and safe in the school that he's in, and his epileptic seizures have subsided a bit.
Los estudiantes con necesidades especiales, así como mi hijo, ellos necesitan el apoyo y por eso vengo a pedirles que por favor abran esta escuela para que puedan hacer el cambio en otras familias.
I'm here to ask for your support. So students like my son who need extra support are receiving the support, and I'm here to ask you to support the Mary L. Booker Leadership Academy.
Thank you. Buenos días.
Buenos días. Mi nombre es Elizabeth Nájera. Tengo 4 niños. Los 3 mayores nacieron en México. Ellos llegaron a este gran país, pero las escuelas públicas tuvieron muchísimas discriminaciones. Ahorita mi hijo tiene...
Un momentito para que se traduzca.
My name is Elizabeth Nájera. I have 4 children. The 3 eldest were born in Mexico and have faced a lot of discrimination and difficulties since coming to the U.S., to this great country.
La maestra le decía que era un bebé, que le iba a comprar unos pañales y una mamila, porque decía que no aprendía y lo insultaba delante de todos los compañeros.
One of his teachers would tease him and say that he was a baby and that she would have to buy him diapers and a pacifier because he wasn't able to learn at the same rate as the other kids.
A causa de eso, mi hijo ahorita tiene depresión, suicidio. Ahorita está, gracias a Dios, en una charter. Le están ayudando. Le pusieron un IP porque en la escuela se lo negaron. Yo fui a hablar al distrito escolar y nunca me hicieron caso.
So right now, my son is now in a different school. I've enrolled him into a charter school. He's now receiving an IMP, which he didn't receive at his previous school, despite her urging the district to do so.
Necesitamos escuelas ahorita como las de charter para que puedan seguir nuestros estudiantes aprendiendo y para que sigan estudiando y puedan ir a las universidades.
We need schools like this school and other charter schools to really support our kids and our families to ensure that their dreams of going to universities can be fulfilled.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Good morning. My name is Kimberly Evans. I have a master's in public health and I am a doctoral student of cognition and instruction. I am also a concerned community member, volunteer and activist, and a Fierce Village member for my nieces, nephews, and other children in the community. I am supporting Booker Academy because Bayview, Sunnydale, Visitation Valley, Excelsior, as well as others need Booker Academy so that children in low socioeconomic areas can enjoy the same educational advantages as those in upper echelon neighborhoods. I believe that this school will not only allow children to have access and learning learning opportunities that are normally reserved for those in private schools and the like. But Booker Academy will also offer a safe and encouraging environment where students will be supported by volunteers who have experience in mental health and other mentoring qualities. This will speak to those who suffer intermittent trauma with no resources. The methodology of Booker Academy will prove to present fewer suspensions and more college-bound graduates. We have a powerful potential in our youth, and we must have the courage to change old ideas and practices so that we may direct their power toward good ends. Mary McLeod Bethune, activist and educator. Thank you.
Time. Thank you. Do we have some more speakers? Yeah.
Please line up. Romel Antoine, Vanessa Harlan, Diana Vasquez, Julissa Linares, Jacqueline Reyes.
Thank you. Still morning.
Still morning. Good morning. Romel Anton with the California Charter Schools Association. Just to talk about a couple of things. The strength of this petition is one of the highest that we've seen at CCSA. I think you all know that CCSA, when we work with our schools, we do a thorough review of their documentation. We go through a process of going through their leadership team, of investigating just, is this the right school for the right community at the right time? And this school passes all of those. It's one of the strongest that we've seen come forward with us. It's along the likes of Promise and Perseverance, which were approved before. And this is one of those schools we've talked really clearly about what we call grocery store politics. This is one of those issues, charter schools, that can really create rifts in communities. And when I've talked to Terrence and his team about what is happening in the community right now, he's deeply cognizant that there are rifts beginning to form, and he's started to build bridges and wants to build bridges in this community. And I think that's not something that we hear often enough from leaders in our communities, from either traditional public schools or charter public schools, is that we know that this is a difficult issue in our community, one of equity, but it's important that we know that if this school gets approved, that we need to work together to keep working on this. So please approve. Thank you.
Thank you. Morning.
Morning. Buenos días. Mi nombre es Julissa. Soy estudiante de high school.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Julissa, and I'm a high school student.
Estoy ese día ante ustedes exponiendo la necesidad que se abran más escuelas charter porque tenemos más atención como alumnos.
I'm here to urge you to support this charter school because it's schools like charter schools, they give students more attention that they need.
Como nosotros que no podemos muy bien el inglés, en las escuelas charter recibimos más atención que en las escuelas grandes. En escuelas públicas no siempre recibimos mucha atención.
I'm asking you to support the school because it's schools like charter schools for students who are just learning English like myself. You can receive more support as opposed to larger traditional schools where there isn't often that support.
Y en escuelas públicas también hay discriminación por parte de maestros. Como una vez mi compañera recibió discriminación por mi maestra porque ella no podía muy bien hablar inglés.
Another thing that I've faced before is discrimination from teachers in traditional schools. One of my best friends was discriminated at the school because she couldn't speak English very well.
Por eso estamos aquí para que nos apoyen a abrir más escuelas charter.
Yeah, so I'm here asking that you continue to support charter schools because they provide good options.
Gracias.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good morning.
Buenos días. Mi nombre es Patricia Chávez, madre líder de Innovate.
Good morning. My name is Patricia Chavez, and I'm a parent leader with Innovate.
Vengo apoyando a Booker Academy, ya que mi hijo ha asistido en las escuelas del distrito donde recibió bullying.
I'm here to support Mariel Booker Leadership Academy because I have a student that's enrolled in traditional schools and has received a lot of bullying.
Nunca fuimos escuchados por los maestros ni por el director.
We were never paid attention to by teachers nor the principal.
Mi hijo tuvo problemas psicológicos, está asistiendo con el psicólogo y la doctora mandó carta al distrito escolar para recibir ayuda. Nunca el distrito escolar nos ayudó en nada.
My son has faced psychological issues. He's seeing a psychologist right now. The psychologist sent a letter to the district, but the district has not responded at all.
El director, cuando les puse mi problema, él me dijo que si mi hijo era necesario que pegara, que pegara.
My son, when we went to talk to the principal, said if it was necessary to hit my son, that I should hit him.
Esa respuesta me sorprende de un director de una escuela. Por eso quiero que otros niños tengan la oportunidad de asistir a otras escuelas.
That response from a principal and the leader of a school really astounded me, and that's why I'm here to support other school options.
Como Booker Academy para ser escuchados y tengan un nivel académico de alto rendimiento.
That's why I'm here to support the Mary L. Booker Leadership Academy, where students and families can be heard and they'll have a high level of academics as well.
Gracias por escucharme.
Thank you for listening.
Thank you. Good morning.
Good morning, Commissioner. My name is Alan Choi. I'm a parent of 6 children born here in San Francisco. I'd like to say this one thing to open up with. When making a decision or choice, especially for our children, which is a very important issue, experience alone shouldn't overtake the facts. But experiencing the facts on your own is the goal. Therefore, you become more malleable, more shapeable. In advancing this thought about the issue that we're all involved with, community, equity, and leadership is what our Terrence Davis pointed out, which is very important because he boasts not on the negativity, but on the issue of positive potentiality of our children. And that's what I think we should take place with. And with doing this, the leadership involved in the future is a sound basis for even now.
Good morning, board. How y'all doing? I'd just like to say my name is Dwayne Gaines. I'm from San Francisco. I'm a native and a resident. I graduated from Balboa High in 1983. I was tested last week at a 5th grade level. I had 5 kids. 2 got masters and the son got a degree. I wouldn't let them go to public school in San Francisco. They went to charter schools. I enrolled my son in Willie Brown this year. For a little while, we got him in SI. He's in the 7th grade in SI. We got him there, thank God. It was a fight there. And then the security guard got in his face, I got your back, homie, I got your back. It's crazy. Willie Brown is crazy. It needs to be Brown. San Francisco School District is not working. It didn't work for me, and it's not gonna work now. We need to get these charter schools in here and move this thing. It got to be shaken up. You know, it got to be shaken up. It's no way it can continue going like this. It's ridiculous. It's really ridiculous. We got one of the richest counties in California. Look how low the scores is. We can't just kick back into this. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have some more speakers?
There's no more names listed.
Okay. Do we have any speakers, Mike, who've come into the room in San Francisco?
Yes, we do.
Okay. How many?
2.
Okay, we'll take them now.
Okay, just a second.
Hello?
Hi, good morning.
Good morning. Hi, my name is Ebony Scott, and my daughter goes to Malcolm X Academy. And I don't know where you say the community is behind any of these charter schools, because I'm a part of the community and have been a part of the community for years, and nobody's asked me what I felt. The school that my daughter goes to is a small setting. Those children, when they come out of that school, they're going to be the smartest children you've ever seen. And I know that for a fact. Nobody ever passes up my daughter or any of those other children there. But you've not talked to anyone in the community, because I'm a part of that community. I don't want a charter school in the school that's in our school right now is completely taken over our school. That's our school. That's our home, and has been our home, been my daughter's home. We're there. We're there, and I'm a part of that community, and no one's ever asked me anything. No one's asked my advice. Nobody's asked my concern. Nobody's asked how I felt about moving another school in our school or any other thing.
Time. Your 1 minute is up.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi. Hello?
Good morning.
Morning. My name is Elizabeth Ama, and I represent Malcolm X as well. I come from a big family, 11 children in my family, and all of my siblings attended Malcolm X, and they graduated from Malcolm X Elementary, and they moved on, and they graduated in a public school, out of a public school in San Francisco. So now that my siblings graduated, and I graduated as well, I'm speaking on behalf of my children now. They're going to Malcolm X. I have 5 children there. One just graduated and moved on to another public school. And I'm kind of confused on how everything is going as far as with KIPP taking over our school. They're there and they don't have 150 children like they said they were going to have. They're taking up a lot of parking. It's making it difficult for us public parents that goes to the public school for Malcolm X to get our children in on time, because it's a one-way, well, actually, it's two-way street, but we're going to make it where it's a one-way street. We're trying to make it where it's a one-way street. I almost got into a car accident twice going down a 15 mile per hour or 5 mile per hour street, and it's a school zone, dealing with KIPP parents that does not care about us public schools, sharing the Malcolm X school with their children's school, KIPP. And I've been upset lately about how everything's been going on and how they just took over our school and changed all the locks downstairs and just took over the school. I just don't understand. You know, so thank you.
Thank you.
About that. That's not right.
Okay, that wraps up the public comment on this item. We're going to move into deliberation, which can include questions of CDE staff, the petitioner, or the district, and then ultimately a motion and a vote on this item. Questions, commissioners? Yep.
I have a question for the petitioner. First, I want to thank the families that are here that spoke. You guys had a lot of courageous stories, so thank you for that. Some of the opposition, though, had to do with parent voice in regards to special needs students, local control. Obviously, you have support here, but can you tell us moving forward how you're going to continue that parent voice and local control and that input from the families?
Absolutely. So can I first, there you go. Could I first speak directly to Mr. Davis, since some of those families that spoke aren't here in the room? And so, Mr. Davis, I'll make the request that either you have my contact information or you can provide those parents my contact information. He has my email and my phone number, so I can meet with those parents. And so just for the parents that are in the room at SFUSD, so you can hear me directly, I am always open to sitting down. I mentioned before in my slides that majority of these conversations happened in coffee shops, happen in meeting rooms, wherever it's at, and wherever it is that I am more than willing, and I know people on our team are more than willing to meet with people. So we're going to first address that because I think that's an important part. I know Romel spoke to this idea of rifts that can happen, so I do think that that's something that I want to address very early. Specifically talking about the special education, I'll first touch on the fact that the vast majority of my career was both as a special education teacher and administrator, so that is something that's incredibly important to me. I will make one correction because I know someone spoke about our working with the SELPA. One correction that kind of keeps coming up is that, well, you know, I know the San Francisco Council on Special Education wanted us to be a part of the San Francisco SELPA. That would require, of course, for us to be approved by San Francisco Unified. And so it's a little bit of a catch-22 for us, because for me to be a part of that SELPA, they would have had to approve us. Now that we're not, I then need to find the other SELPA, which is El Dorado. And so first and foremost, I want to clarify that, then also say that how I am, more than anything, amongst all the things that we're working on, extraordinarily committed to our students who have disabilities. Again, a big part of this work came from me sitting down in rooms with students who were having the hardest time and needed a different model. And really, when you look at this model, it's me expanding on some of the work that I had with some of those students and believing how applicable it is to all students. So quick example, you had a parent here that kind of talked about this bullying, and that's something that's come up a lot. That was a very telling story that I heard a couple weeks ago when we had one of our meetings in the Excelsior. And that story spawned another story of bullying, which sort of spawned another story of bullying. I bring that up because you realize when we're talking about students with disabilities, a lot of the supports that they need apply to all students. It's not just concentrated for our students that have disabilities, it's concentrated for everyone. So to answer your question directly, we are part of the El Dorado SELPA. we will service every single student. I have a strong career of meeting with students I can go down the list of all the different students who've had different disabilities. They will always be included at Mary L. Booker Leadership Academy. Thank you.
The second question of that is, once you get operating, you're not going to be in coffee shops having conversations, although you might still do that.
Good, true.
What structures do you have in place that are going to bring in that parent input?
Absolutely. So first, we have our Mary L. Booker Advisory Board, which is something that I'm working with the CDE to clarify around. But the purpose of that is to have significant parent voice. So that is first and foremost our group where we're bringing in parents to come in on a regular basis. The other group that's been mentioned a lot is Innovate Public Schools, who does a lot of the community organizing, working with parents. We will continue to partner with them so they can help and support our families and talking to them. And first, of course, I will always have an open door policy. I will always make sure that if I can get to the coffee shops, I do have a wife and kids, so my wife at some point is expecting me to go home, all right? But at the end of the day, the same policies and the same conversations we're having are gonna happen at the school. Yep. Should I stay up here or you want me to sit down?
Yeah, maybe. If there are any other commissioner questions of Terrence, yeah.
I represent teachers, okay? So I've heard a lot about reaching out to community and parents and so on, but none of this is going to work unless you can attract and retain a really good group of teachers. And I haven't really heard anything about how that's going to happen, how those people are going to have professional development, how those people are going to be able to advocate for the students they are trying to serve, because those are the kind of problems that they have in the Bay Point area right now.
Yep.
So I guess what I'm looking for is, what's going to happen to make sure that you have, the teachers that are going to drive this and make it work.
Yep, absolutely. It's a great question. So 2 parts to that. First is recruitment. We've partnered with an organization that's specifically working to recruit teachers of color. And so we're working with them. We actually share an office building. And so we've had conversations about, to be very clear, I've waited until we've gotten our approval before I've made any formal offers. But as Mr. Davis stated in our petition, it was actually the teacher signatures that we submitted. So teachers who have been supporting this model. So along with the families that have come and have been participating, we've also had teachers having these same conversations. And I'll reference the coffee shops, but have been having the same meetings with our teachers and conversations. So recruitment-wise, we're working to recruit specifically teachers of color. Obviously, we want to find the best, but we're going out there. When I say that, I have intentions to travel to HBCUs. I'm a graduate in HBCU, going into the historically Latino institutions, recruiting teachers of color. And so that is our initial process, which we've started conversations, but the second we're approved, we're officially going to be able to offer. The next part I think that you get into is, how do we ensure that these are the greatest teachers, right? How do we ensure that they're going to be able to support our students? The first and foremost, what I've seen from high-performing schools is that you have a strong professional development. Before teachers have the first day of school, they will start with 15 days of professional development. And that is every single year. Every Friday, we've carved out 3 hours just around professional development for our teachers. And so, and again, Mr. Davis probably can speak more to it. I think that's significantly more than what's being offered at San Francisco Unified. And we know, again, every school that I've worked at has seen success by having a strong professional development program. I'll also say, I know that it was mentioned that we're applying for the PCSGP. I would slow down when I say that. If we're able to get those, that support, along with our other support we've had, our first-year teachers, our intention is to bring them in early and starting to have them work on Saturdays, especially with some of the students that we've already recruited. And so in the spring, our goal is to bring the teachers in early and get them trained, because we know the first year is always the hardest year for teachers. By the first year is when everyone's new, we're learning all these different programs. And so it's our intention to use some of that funding that we've been provided, the $625,000 that was mentioned, towards training our teachers early before they even come to see us.
Can I ask what organization you're working with to recruit teachers of color?
Yes, it is Urban Ed Academy.
Urban
Ed Academy.
Thank you.
Yep.
Questions? Yeah, what about any of our commissioners on the phone? Any questions of the petitioner? I've got a few, but I want to defer to our commissioners.
This is Mark Ryan. I have a question.
Go ahead, Mark.
So I think I'm supportive of staff's recommendation, but in terms of the the one theme that I see in all of this, and we've seen it, San Francisco Unified, brings up, I think, some very valid points about this question about enrollment. I am concerned that that you're going to make the enrollment targets, and I guess my question is, how confident are you that you will make the enrollment targets, and how much, if that confidence level is not exceptionally high, meaning 85, 90% or better, if you have some level of belief that it's possible you won't make the enrollment targets, have you developed plans B, C, D with regards to budget, and have you set some internal targets that say, if we don't have X number of kids actually enrolled by date X, we will proceed to Plan B? Can you speak a little bit more about the enrollment likelihood and some of your fallback plans should enrollment not materialize to the level that you anticipate?
Yes, absolutely. Could I first, I don't know how this works. Can I submit something? I know some of us are online, but I'll pass this. One of the questions that Mr. Davis brought up was just, I stated that we had 400 intent to enroll forms. The form that's coming around to you that you'll be able to check out, I apologize for those of you that are on the phone, I can send it to you, is each parent that signed our intent to enroll form. So when I say the 400, that's the list of the 400 that are that have signed up for us. And as Mr. Davis said, our intention is to submit those 400 forms November 1st for Prop 39. So that is kind of to your first question, where are the students at? I think one of the big questions, one of the misnomers is that a lot of this conversation comes around Mary L. Booker Leadership Academy and the Bayview. Those, and what I really appreciated from the CDE is that when you read our petition, you'll see the Bayview and the Mission. Throughout our petition, we mentioned Bayview and Mission. And additional, we have families today that are from the Excelsior Viz Valley who have started supporting us after I submitted the petition. So I submitted the petition in April. And I don't know if I can go back to this PowerPoint, but I showed that heat map. And when you look at the heat map, we've petitioned Southeast San Francisco. So going to that question that you have, and I know I don't want to speak of other charters, but I know the question comes up, well, the Bayview, I know there were some people from San Francisco that were talking about other schools specifically to the Bayview. We've been recruiting families from multiple communities, in part because our mission is to serve all students, but especially students of color. And so that includes African-American students, Latino students, and something that I haven't mentioned as well is our Pacific Islander families. And so I think that we've recruited from a larger base than maybe some of the other schools, which goes to why we're maybe able to get some more signatures. To your next point, which is, what if we don't hit enrollment? So one of the scenarios that I could foresee, so to answer your question, I feel very confident that we're gonna hit our enrollment numbers. But I think a scenario that could come up is, we've been looking at private facilities, and we could find a facility that maybe our first year is gonna be 120 students, maybe that private facility can't manage 120 students. So in that scenario, we have created contingency plans, and we'd be able to adjust our budget to be able to reflect a smaller enrollment. Again, my belief is that we're gonna have enough students from year one. My expectation is all the families that are behind us are gonna be a part of that recruiting process, which I think is really gonna help. I'd also say that I know, because again, we're often through this meeting, we've been compared to other schools that are in San Francisco, other charters. One of the other differences, I think that we're having assuming that we get approved in November, we're going to be starting much earlier than some of the other schools. I know some of the other schools were having started later. They're officially approved, I think, in the spring. I know that they have facilities. My hope is that I'm able to work with Mr. Davis, and we're able to find a facility quickly, and so we're able to provide that for our families, and so we are able to start our enrollment process soon. Did that answer your question?
It does.
Okay.
So let me, I'm going to follow up, though.
Yep.
So if one of the things that we know that we've seen in lots of schools statewide is somebody will have 400 intents to enroll, and in some cases, by the time they get to actual enrollment, they actually get only 15 to 20% of the number of people who actually had indicated an intention to enroll. And there's fairly wide disparity. There are places in the state where 95% of people with intent to enroll actually enroll, and there are other places where less than 10% choose to enroll. So I think one of the pieces that, and obviously I'm on a phone, so I don't have access to this document that you've shown commissioners on the dais, but I guess I just worry for you and for any school that's in the position of trying to open that there is always a very real possibility that people don't make enrollment targets. And then, from a budgeting standpoint, you've said we're going to have 120 students, and if only 90 show up on day one, then there's a significant need to make all kinds of adjustments in the budget. And it's for those of us in the charter business, we know that there is this sort of a funnel, right? You start with 400 kids that have said they're interested, but then that funnel gets smaller and smaller until then you get to the first day of actual instruction, and that funnel could turn from 400 into 120, or that funnel could turn from 400 into 90, or 400 into 20, and that certainly happened to some folks. So I think the last piece that I would say then is, if you haven't already developed a plan B, plan C, plan D actual budget that says, if we're not going to get to 120, but we actually only get to 100 or 90, what does that basic budget look like? What does the budget look like if we only get to 60 or 70? And, are we viable at those lower numbers? And at what point are we not viable? Yeah. And again, you don't necessarily have to answer that right this moment, but from a practitioner's standpoint, I can tell you that I think it's important that you have those backward plans ready in case you don't hit the enrollment target. Yep. So that was my only comment.
Yeah. And I appreciate that, and I appreciate that first from an advice standpoint. Again, I would also say that, having worked at charter schools, enrollment is always on top of the mind of everyone, and so very aware of that. Specifically thinking from the budget standpoint, when you look at, and I know the CDE talked about our philanthropy, the only additional funds that are included in our budget that we submitted came from Silicon School Fund. It was actually very interesting timing. Our New School Venture Fund grant came like a week after we submitted to the district. So we still have those additional funds. When you look at our budget, they're not including the additional support that we've already received. And that money from the New School Venture Fund is already in our bank account. And so that is something that's not in our petition, but that is kind of going to your question of what happens if we're short X amount of students. Again, I think at a certain point, everything is about enrollment and getting students in the door and making sure families are feeling supported and cared for and want to stay at the school. So that's first and foremost. From a budget standpoint, though, we do have a reserve that we have not included in our budget. That also does include, of course, the PCSGP grant as a potential support to that, any shortcomings if we had that.
Thank you. Mark, any other questions?
No.
Thank you.
What about other commissioners?
Jamal, can I jump in?
Sure.
Okay, thanks. Good morning to the petitioner and to folks across the Bay in San Francisco. I'm incredibly impressed with this petition and the thinking around personalized learning, project-based learning, just this concept of the dream team. I think we often talk about this, and I think we have CSTs in our school systems. We call them that, and sometimes it doesn't always make the mark, right? And so, the question in that piece would just be, how do you support community members to be a part of your school community and supporting a student, and knowing that that person might come, it might be a minister, but it also might be, you know, a big brother, or it might be someone else who's actually struggling, but like that child has rapport and relationship. So again, I love the concept of the dream team. And so if you could just share, you know, a thumbnail about like, what does that look like?
Yep. So in our petition in the appendix, we have a couple of examples of really what are the expectation of the dream team members. So I think what you're getting at is that, you know, we're bringing people in, we're bringing this community in, and people are going to have different opinions. One of the first things that comes up when I think of that is that it's good for us to know that early on. When we're talking to families, I think one of the things, again, I go back to my experience as a teacher, there's times where, you know, I didn't realize how the family felt or their specific beliefs about certain areas. About, you know, a good example is that, you know, I would have students where there would be fights, and then I would come to find out later on that their father was encouraging them to do that, right? And so I think to your point of, I think it's positive to have those conversations early, and even if, because there's a chance that someone could come into our school, love our school, but maybe they don't believe in everything that we believe in, right? Community, equity, and leadership. And so I think it's part of the benefit of the dream team is that we have the ability to talk to people very early, and especially with the parent and the student, we talk to them before they even arrive on campus. And so to kind of figure some of those things out. The other part, I think, to what you're saying is that a lot of it is going to be having these routine conversations, and a lot of it's going to be having difficult conversations. Again, there's going to be people that are going to want to join the dream team that may not, you know, align with all the things that we've said. I don't think that means that we kick people out or we don't allow them, but I think that means that we tell them what our expectations are, what it means. Obviously, you know, someone that's coming into the dream team would not be allowed to, you know, use abusive language. Would not be allowed to do anything that was, you know, tearing a student down. So there's some certain basic rules that we have. And then there's always going to be some gray line. I think that's my role as a school leader and the other teachers that are at the school and talking to families. But I just think that there's actually a benefit, I think, to talking about this stuff early and starting to figure out if there are any differences, so that way we can address it as a school.
Okay, quickly, are you a restorative justice practitioner or anyone on your team and staff, and what's your, where do you feel like you're going to go? I hate to say go get training, because I don't believe it's something you train in, right? Yes. I believe that it's really a practice and you're oriented and exposed to it. So can you talk about your restorative justice practices and where they come from, and how you, how that gets baked into your school?
Yep. Yes, so to answer your question directly, yes, I've had experience working with restorative practices. What I'll point to our leadership class. And so our leadership class was modeled after Valor Collegiate, which is a school in Nashville, Tennessee. Again, what I see as really beneficial, and I think to your point, like, we throw out restorative justice. It's, you know, often we only use it when there's, again, a fight or there's some big issue. What's unique, I think, about our school, and we think of our leadership course, is that every Friday we have an hour dedicated to our circle time. And so this is when students are coming together and they're having these conversations. And so when I think of restorative practices, what I think is unique about our school is that every single student is going to be doing this. It's not going to happen after a big fight. It's not going to happen after a teacher has a conflict with a student. It's something that we start with the first week, the very first week of school, is really talking about how we communicate with each other. How do we have conversations so that these are positive conversations with each other and we're not tearing people down? So when I think of restorative conversations, and we also talk about in our discipline code, if a student does have an issue where there's a conflict between the students, we are bringing them back to a circle. But that circle, hopefully at that point, is something that they've practiced in their class, and it's just a common thing that we do at the school. Everybody does it. And the other thing I'll kind of point out, and it goes to Mr. Washington, to your point, our restorative justice and our circle from that we're adopting from Valor Collegiate is the exact same practices that we're doing with our teachers. So our teachers, when we do that, because we also know that our teachers need support. Our teachers are frustrated. There's going to be a time where our teachers are going to be frustrated with me as a school leader. And so these are all things, conversations that we need to have. And I think that we're trying to build these systems. And so it's, I think your question is that, like, it's common practice at our school. It's common practice if you're having a conflict, how you're addressing it. And again, where I've seen restorative justice struggle is when we make it kind of as an add-on, or it only comes after a big fight or something else. At our school, is going to be something that's embedded in the community.
Thank you. If, through the chair, can you indulge me in a couple more questions?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay, and I'll try to make them quick. I think I'll leave the best for last. And just in terms of timing, I appreciated the 504 explanation. I appreciated the English language learner piece. I'm always looking for like language development. I'm looking for, inclusion in both of these places, right? Around special needs students and then English language learners. So that you don't have to do a really long answer on this, but just can you talk a little bit about, I know you said your experience, how does this work get baked into your teaching staff and dream teams and leadership teams and that type of thing?
Yeah.
Sorry, it's a real crunchy one. It's all.
Right. Feel free to cut me off because I can go for days on this. I know we got to get out of here at some point. We were talking about our students with disabilities and our students that are learning English. I would point to our learning studio. So that class was specifically, so again, going back to my experience, I worked at High Tech High where we did 100% project-based learning. It's an amazing pedagogy when we're thinking of how we're teaching students. I will say though that if you're a student that is having some fundamental struggles, I always tell people that if you're a student that is, hasn't mastered your multiplication tables, as someone that taught project-based learning or taught in a project-based learning environment, it's a little tough, right? It's tough because you're doing these big projects that may or may not address those issues. And so our learning studio was specifically designed to support those needs. And so that is when we are having a dedicated time, and it's one day for a student, it'll be math, the next day it'll be English, and we're really honing in on what do you need on a personal level. And so, and you mentioned like this idea of personalized learning, which again is a big concept. I bring that down to when I think of personalized learning is where is the student at, for example, their reading level, and how do we keep them moving forward? So the short version is that, and where I think this really benefits a student that has a disability or a student that is going at a different pace, is that in most schools, often in many schools, students are being pulled out or there's someone that's being pushed in. A lot of students have different feelings about how like you're being removed from the classroom. Because Learning Studio is dedicated for every student, everybody in the school is getting that personalized touch, right? That personalized touch point. So it's not, I'm not getting pulled out. I'm getting every single teacher. And one of the things I think that's unique about our school, if you look at our math teacher, for example, the same math teacher that's working with them during their project-based learning time also supports them in their learning studio. So that is when they're getting that personalized support. And that's for all students, but I especially think it's gonna help our students with disabilities. And real quick, because I know I'm going too long, I think it also then allows our special education teacher to then work on some of the other supports that they may need. So if my math teacher is focusing on my math deficit, I'm then able to maybe work on some of the executive functioning skills that a student would need. Whereas my special education teachers that I've worked with, you're often overwhelmed because I'm trying to do everything. So my math teacher supports the issues that they may have in math and the struggles, while my special education teacher is then able to focus on whatever other area. And it could be also supporting math, but it could be other areas to make sure the student is successful.
Great, thank you so much. Just that, I think that that's an important thing to note. That I think that that's creative. I think that that's innovative, and that's how I make my judgments around whether or not we're recycling the same stuff. Are we interrupting some things? So the last question, and I'm going to try and mush this together too, is it's this question of enrollment. I did have a concern about, under-enrolled schools. I have a real concern when you talk about kids of color. San Francisco is not that place anymore for many people of color. And so I'm actually live streaming a little bit. I'm a little bit delayed, so I actually can see you guys' beautiful faces. And so I know that you have, I know that there's a couple of ministers there, and one of them spoke about housing development and building houses. And so this is way, this is too complicated even where I land with a question in this, but just knowing that gentrification is very real. How do you partner in a way that you actually bring, stability to your families and community? And then I want to say that I'm excited about this idea of the Mission District and the Bayview. And I've kind of heard, the underpinnings, and this is the stuff that our own biases and bigotry comes out sometimes around someone coming from outside of my community coming in, Latino, Black folks together. What does that look like? How do you work with that? but it sounds like there's been some intentionality around bringing these communities together. And I'm so glad you mentioned Pacific Islander community, because that's a large community of folks in San Francisco, and then to speak to Excelsior and Viz Valley. So that makes me feel a little bit too, in a 6-12 feeder pattern, makes me feel a little bit more confident about enrollment and being able to kind of hit those targets, although a lot of those families that you're targeting are not in healthy spaces around housing. And I dare say anything, there's probably other things that those communities might be traumatized and having a difficult time. So there's a little bit of a question in there, even I think maybe for a community member to kind of speak to building a new school while your community is actually kind of struggling and traumatized. Yeah. Thanks. And that's it. Thank you to the chair for indulging me.
Do you want to answer?
You're welcome to, but I didn't hear a question as clearly as you may have. So any others? Yeah, Curtis.
I think maybe this is one of the things that I kind of heard from what Jamoka was asking is, you talk about doing that recruiting at different places. Man, it is so expensive to live in the Bay Area. How do you get someone to come in? Because, you talk about program and the fact that you're going to provide the underpinning and support for these students. I mean, that requires time. If somebody's got to live out in the sticks because they can't afford to live closer and commute, 4 or 5 hours a day, that's going to, I think, be a problem for them in terms of their ability to be there for the students the way the students need to be. I guess what I'm asking is there something there that's going to help that? I know the school district that I used to be with, San Mateo, I mean, they are looking for housing for teachers. They're trying to create housing so that they can attract and retain the best teachers and have them have a place to actually live so they don't have to commute, long distance, that sort of thing. Have you thought through some of that?
Yeah, so specifically think of teachers, correct?
Yeah, teachers.
So yes, so have started, I mentioned an organization that we've already reached out to, along with a couple of others that are in the Bay Area around that very issue. And so I think, so first and foremost, this goes back to our recruiting conversation. I know that when we're recruiting teachers, I have to be very, very upfront with them about, do you want to live here, right? And so I think that there's, the first and foremost, is talking to some of the teachers that are already here, right? Or people that want to be teachers. And again, one of the benefits I think we have from having a little bit of a runway is I've already started to have conversations with community members who have thought about being teachers, who have already found a way to make it work. So I think that's kind of the first part. I think the other part is being very open with families. And then to your point of trying to get housing, I have had conversations with individuals that are in the Bay Area that are thinking about that same topic. I don't want to sit here and say that I've got a housing structure ready to go, but yes, I have had those conversations, and that is a dream of Booker Academy, would be to have self-sustaining teacher housing so that teachers don't have to go anywhere.
Great. I'm fully supporting this petition. So much of what we see before here sometimes lacks in certain areas. And this is an example of a petition that is really well developed and a leader too who has the background that you do. And I've taken a look at not only what's been submitted, but a little bit about you. And I'm really pleased that you're making a move with the organization that you are to serve this particular community. Through your presentation and some of the questions that have been asked by commissioners, almost all of my questions have been answered around enrollment, around your outreach and connection, the partnerships that you've made in the respective community, and then I think the unique background that you possess that makes you and the team that you're assembling completely suited to the communities that you wish to serve. The one that I've heard some commentary about in the documentation is around your administrative credential. So the school's open in a year. You've clearly had teaching and administrative experience outside of California. Where are you in that process to secure your administrative credential?
Yep, it's my expectation is that I'm going to sign up for an alternative program, alternative administrative. Again, because I was outside and every school that I've worked at, they haven't required that. They usually go based on my performance. But I know that it's a best practice to have an administrative credential, and it's something that I plan to have.
Thank you. Are there any other questions or comments from commissioners?
This is Mark Ryan. I don't want to move staff's recommendation.
Thank you, Mark. Is there a second?
Second.
That was Jamoke making the second. Any questions or comments from commissioners?
I just want to make just a comment.
Yeah.
And that is, this has been actually a great opportunity to sit here and listen to this charter petition. And I just want to recognize that I reviewed the petition, I reviewed the neighborhood that's in question, and I acknowledge the angst that exists here within the community, referring to the two gentlemen of faith who came up, who said that this is basically a crisis. We have kids in the system now, and when you're looking at what the traditional public schools are achieving at, I can totally understand your angst. On the flip side, I understand the district and how they want to make sure that they are able to provide a public education for all of their students. But I really feel at this particular point in time, the petition is high quality. The finances, and thank you in advance for providing those letters from your venture capitalist group, because that helps resolve a lot of my issues that I've asked in the past having to do with the finances, so I appreciate that. And so I think that we're in a situation where, given a recommendation from this council to the State Board of Education, should the State Board approve, you'll have 5 years to really make, hopefully, an impact in this community and see growth. And I hope to see you back in 5 years with that demonstrated growth. So I will be supportive of this motion.
I kind of have a question. I'm sorry for, well, I don't know how we're going to move. I think I have a question for San Francisco. I mean, I know the angst, right? I'm a district board member. So I know, we want to bring innovation in-house. We want to replicate these things. We don't necessarily have the same resources. So I definitely identify and understand. And yet, if this is actually approved at the next level, because I know we're just making a recommendation, how might you work together around Prop 39? Because I think that was maybe a hanging out question for me, even with the petitioner. But I'm kind of speaking specifically to San Francisco. Like, do you believe that you could support a Prop 39 request in a timely manner?
We support all Prop 39 requests in a timely manner. So I anticipate that this petitioner will submit a Prop 39 request at November 1st. We will do our review and we follow all timelines, which we always do. So I don't think it's, respectfully, I don't think it's a question of, whether we think we can. We have to. We don't have any choice, and we follow the law.
May a parent speak?
Not at this time, but thank you. Okay, are there any other questions or comments?
Yeah, this is Wes Sever, and I just wanted to make a comment that I do confer with CD's recommendation, but in public comment there was one thing that concerned me, and that was that one of the public making the comment had mentioned that you publicized your school very well, but that there was possibly a negative comment made about San Francisco Unified. And, I don't believe there's a superintendent or a teacher that comes to school saying, hey, I'm not going to do a good job today. But we all have different circumstances and we're all working together. But I also recognize that there's no silver bullet in education. And students need a range of repertoire, different experiences. And I think your school is going to provide that. But I just want you to be cognizant that as you're recruiting and as students that you talk
Could I address that real quick, because I did hear that comment? So real quick, so first and foremost, that was not a Mary L. Booker Leadership Academy event. And I think, I would have to go back and, see the tapes and see what happened. But again, I think sometimes there's a confusion because we work with a couple of organizations that if something's being said in one organization, that means that it's the same as ours. I'll be very clear, I've never said anything disparaging about the district. I've sat down with Mr. Davis and had several conversations. He's always been willing to work with me. I have all the faith that he'll work with me for Prop 39. But in terms of Mary L. Booker Leadership Academy, when we've had meetings, it's about Mary L. Booker Leadership Academy.
Hey, awesome. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. And I think you guys are going to do some good things.
Thank you. Any others? Yeah, Curtis.
For me, the best place for this to be is a part of San Francisco Unified School District. To me, that's, where this is coming out of. That's where the need is. That's what should happen. I would really, really have liked to see you and the school district come together and do this that way. I think it would simplify some things for you. I think it would give you that pool of teachers who are in the area, to perhaps draw from and so on. Because that to me is a nervous. I'm really nervous about you getting the people. I really am, and that's what's going to drive whether you succeed or you don't. So, though I feel I need to support this, I really, I'm going to say this, and I'm going to say this from me directly to you, and I want you to hear this. I am trusting you to do what you said you're going to do, to get the right people in and to make sure that this comes off the way it's supposed to. The reason I'm going to say yes to this is because I'm going to trust you. And I need you to hear that. I don't say that to everybody that comes to that podium. But then again, everybody comes to the podium doesn't look like you either. But I'm going to trust you. And I want you to hear that, and I hope you'll take that seriously.
I absolutely take that very serious. And I know that the same things you're saying to me are told to me on a regular basis by the families that are behind me. And so all the things that have been said so far, one of the things what I talk about with our families is not just support. I expect that there's going to be accountability. When we get into this debate over a charter district, I expect that the families that are behind me, when day one we open, are going to hold me as accountable as people are holding the district. Absolutely. And I hope that, first off, I hope I don't have to come back here in 5 years because we've worked so well with the district that we're approved there. And when I come back, it's just to say hi and shake hands. That's it, right?
I know. Okay, any other questions or comments? Thank you all. We'll conclude then with a roll call vote. I'll start with Gail.
Yes.
Lisa.
Yes.
Jared.
Yes.
Curtis.
Yes.
Mark.
Yes.
Ari.
Yes.
Wes.
Yes.
Jamoke.
Yes.
And I'll be voting yes. So that moves forward with a unanimous vote of support. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, that concludes our advisory commission meeting for today. I want to thank everyone in attendance in person as well as remotely. We'll be back here for a December 13 meeting, our last of the 2018 year. Thank you all.